Loki is ridiculously strong, and with his fight against Emu spanning across multiple chapters at this point, people have gotten really comfortable placing him above old generation legends like Rox and maybe even Roger. Now, is he that strong? It's possible, but something kind of irks me a little bit when we power scale Loki. I'm a little hesitant to just throw him in certain places so quickly, but as much as One Piece fans like to browbeat you and pretend that Oda just simply doesn't care about power scaling, I really think it's quite the opposite. Oda has carefully constructed a power hierarchy that has been pretty consistent for the majority of this story, and while his power system has been confusing, the pecking order for strength has kinda stayed the same outside of some really small hiccups. But Loki makes things interesting to say the least. He has defeats that, if the right person is arguing in his favor, could be looked at as something that puts him above people like Rox, like I said earlier. But at the same time, narratively, it just feels off to me. So how strong is Loki? Well, let's try to cook up for a second and see. But first, please like and subscribe. I don't ask for much. Let's get to the video. Loki has some pretty insane feats, all things considered. He killed Harrow, who could have been looked at as the strongest guy on the seas at this point in time. And he was amped by Dami Reversi. Not only that, and we're going to get back to that later because I think that's a very interesting conversation, but not only that, he has an extremely strong mythical zone dragon fruit that is perfectly tailored for him because he's also an ancient giant. So he can maximize the size of this dragon and become bigger than any normal person that ate the fruit would, even a regular giant. Plus, he has some extremely strong lightning nukes that he can just shoot out of his mouth. And wait, as if that wasn't enough, his hammer also has a mythical zone fruit with some extremely strong ice powers that, for some reason, no one but him can undo. And he has these eyes that we really haven't figured out the source of them and why he looks like that. He could be an ancient weapon for all we know. The door is still open. Dude could be looked at as even stronger than he is now. But if this doesn't sound crazy enough, and I truly believe it does, he's holding his own against Emu, who is probably either the first or second strongest person of all time in the One Piece verse. Probably second, because I think Joy Boy was comfortably stronger and Nika and stuff is a different conversation. But he's holding his own against him, and he's pretty heavily injured. This guy is like an original character from somebody fanfic that just somehow snuck his way into the canon. But, we can reel things in just a little bit. So first, let's examine the very first and most important thing I think that gives us a realistic view of where Loki should be placed power-wise. And that, to me, is the Shanks and Loki encounter that we know happened at some point 6 years ago. Now, from what we know, Shanks was able to capture Loki and he chained him back up at Elbaf. The popular counter arguments that come with this when you bring this point up is that, well, Shanks jumped Loki. Okay. Loki went to sea with a crew full of giants with them. Maybe they got some popcorn and just sat by and watched as Shanks and his crew just beat the hell out of Loki. No, that's not what happened. The crew's fault, the captain's fault. Shanks was the main reason why Loki was put down. At some point, could he have gotten some help? Sure, but Loki also has a lot of help. Like, I don't know, the mythical zone hammer that has the ice powers that I referred to earlier. I think people really love to do mental gymnastics when it comes to Shanks' feats because they can't fathom that, hey, Oda really loves this guy for some reason. Like, sometimes you just gotta accept it, bro. I know you got people in different fan bases that don't want to see Shanks win for certain reasons, but hey, dog, sometimes you gotta realize you're fighting a losing battle. At the end of the day, Shanks was probably the definitive reason Loki was captured. If he did help, he still did. I mean, if he did get help, he still had 80% of the work in this battle, I'm assuming. And even if he did get some help, bro, like, that's what crews exist for. But if you think Lime Juice was out here just putting in work against Loki, more power to you, my boy. The other narrative is that Shanks used some kind of underhanded tactics and he tricked him or this and that. And I'm not even going to entertain this one for too long, bro. Look, evil Shanks, it's 2026, bro. All right. We already got Shamrock. If there was a need for Shanks to be this secretly evil guy, then Oda would not have made Shamrock. He loves this dude so much that he literally just said, instead of making you have an evil side, I'm gonna just give you a twin that can just take that off you. Like, bro, he's a Mary Sue. I'm sorry. He's a good Mary Sue. He's a very interesting character. He's just a Mary Sue or Gary Sue, I suppose. Now, yes, Loki himself did call Shanks a coward, but we have to acknowledge that he did this to kind of upset Luffy because the anime made it extremely clear. He even said, yo, I was just kidding, calm down, because Luffy was going to hit him with a crazy one in the face. But he was just joking, and he even later referred to him as a great pirate. So that point, I'm not riding with that one. We're not jacking that one. Now, last but not least, Gabon also singled out Shanks when he said only red hair was able to stop Loki. Not the red-haired pirates, just red hair. My final point is, Loki is going on a revenge mission to go after the people who forced his dad to become this evil, mindless thrall and who kind of basically made him kill him. You're not going to reason with Loki to stop him from getting revenge from his dad's killers. You're not gonna reason. Hey, you're not gonna trick him and what did he do? A Davy back fight? Hey, go chain yourself up for 6 years. But it's not like he liked being chained up. Because as soon as he met Luffy, he was trying to get away. So this isn't something he just did by choice. I think we kind of act really dumb on purpose sometimes in the One Piece fandom. But I hate that it sounded like I was glazing Shanks so much, but the point of this section is to just kind of convey that no matter how many different ways you want to downplay what Shanks alone could have done to take out Loki, there's an equal or better counter argument that kind of points to Shanks being the main guy. Now, does this mean he has to be stronger? Not quite, but if we're hunting for a tier of strength to land Loki in, I feel like this is a really good reference point. At the very most, we can say he is just as strong as Shanks. But let's continue. Next up is Luffy. Is Loki stronger than Straw Hat Luffy? There's definitely a chance. I would argue that it's kind of hard to say he's not at this point in the arc, but I will say this. Luffy seems awfully confident that he can put down Loki. Like, I know, Luffy is always confident in himself. He's faced villains that have been way stronger than him, like Kaido and Crocodile, but he was still really confident he can beat them. But I feel like this is a little bit different. Loki is not an antagonist as it stands, and Luffy was really willing to bet on himself to the point, like, when I free this dude, if he get to tripping, I got it. I promise you. Like, we know that Luffy was able to kind of get a read on Loki's true nature almost immediately. He might not be bang on just, hey, I'm power. This is his power level. He's over 9,000, but I'm over 10,000. No, it's not like that. But I do think that Luffy knows that he's in a general ballpark where he can take Loki. It's not far-fetched to me. And I don't believe Oda would have had him saying this so many times in this arc if he really did not have some type of credence behind this. Another factor in how we're going to look at how they compare strength-wise is how Luffy versus Emu goes. And that's obviously going to happen after Loki versus Emu. So we're going to have a direct comparison of how they both perform against the same person. And yeah, Loki is injured, but he really hasn't done much of value to Emu. That's not a downscale because we saw what Zoro and Sanji were able to do to Emu, which is not shit at all. So Loki lasting this long is a feat in itself. But I do think people are getting a little bit carried away when they're looking at how he is performing against Emu. He has only landed one hit. And when he did land that hit, it was when Emu was kind of in one of his fever dreams about Joy Boy. So yes, it's a really impressive and good feat that Loki has lasted this long against Emu. But I do think we got to pump our brakes a little bit because it ain't like he out there going Tyson, they going hand to hand, back and forth. Like, nah, not really. Emu is kind of doing his own thing and he's just daydreaming. And every now and then he's like, oh yeah, I'm fighting this dude. By the way, your name is not Nidhogg, it's Loki. Oh, who is Dosa? He's literally just lore dropping. That's what this fight is for Emu. I'm gonna give the fans some lore and I'm gonna just deal with you in the meantime. But I do think it's not fair to compare Luffy to anybody without mentioning stamina. I think that Gear 5 minutes is a real thing. He has to get his stamina under control if he's going to be considered a top tier. So when I compare Luffy and Loki, I'm kind of mainly comparing Luffy at his very best, which is when he's in Gear 5 and he's fighting, he's free. Loki probably has much more stamina. He can last much longer in the fight at closer to his peak than Luffy can. So he probably will be stronger for longer. But if they're at their very peaks, Luffy, give me Luffy. I ain't gonna lie. But we do need to circle back to Harrow. Loki beating Harrow is probably his greatest feat, all things considered. Now, Harrow is somebody who we know was on par with Rocks. And after he got Dami Reversied, or it's not really the Dami Reversied, but it was the Covenant. He was getting taken over by the Covenant. He's probably much stronger than he was when he clashed against Rocks. Physically, though. I think that's really important. We got to acknowledge that there's a lot of nuance in this fight. I'm going to just continue to refer to it as Dami Reversied because that's much the easier thing to call it than just the mind control, Covenant level, whatever. Let's talk about the Dami Reversied. In a story where your strength and your ceiling is kind of really defined by your willpower, your hockey, right? I think that it's important to talk about how losing access to that and just gaining pure physical strength boosts can help, but also really hurt you. I feel like hockey is the most important thing when it comes to strength. And losing out on that hurts you more than helps you in the case of somebody like Harold. Now, when you go look at somebody like the regular Giants getting dominant racing, who probably didn't have all that impressive hockey in the first place, it's a pretty big boost for them. But you take somebody who's shown hockey capable of clashing with rocks and kind of strip that of him, take his autonomy, take his willpower, his dreams away, and just physically boost him, I don't think his hockey is as impressive. He still has access to his Conqueror's hockey, as we know, but if he is not the one who's able to boost it with his own willpower and emotions, I feel like it kind of falls a little bit flatter than it normally would. So Dami Reverse Seat Harold is physically stronger for sure, but I'm not so sold on him just being as strong as Harold could possibly be. Now, that's just my interpretation of the boost from Dami Reverse Seat. I look at it really similarly to the Germa Double Six boost, right? The twins outside of Sanji all get really strong physical bodies. They can regenerate, but they lose access to their emotion, and their strength level is kind of capped because they can't keep growing their hockey because they really don't have, I don't even know they got access to it. They probably do, but it's not as strong as someone like Sanji, who his strength is kind of fueled by his passion, his emotions. So he has, I'm not gonna say limitless potential, but his ceiling is way higher because he can just continue to boost himself and motivate himself to get stronger because of things that he really cares for. Losing out on your own control and willpower is really important in One Piece. So I'm not so sold that Dami Reverse Harold. Yeah, he might be physically stronger, but I do think there's some caveats there. Now, he didn't have to be stronger than him to kill him. That's another thing about power scaling. I feel like a lot of people, you don't got to be stronger than someone to kill him. You just got to get that kill. But you do have to be at a certain level of strength to kill Harold. It's just, it takes really impressive output and capability to be able to put down somebody as strong as Harold, even if he's pretty much letting you kill him. Now, I do want to mention Shanks and Gabon being there. I don't think that this is a downscale for them. I think that they actually looked really good fighting against Harold. They kind of was cutting him up with no problem. He just was growing back. And it seemed to be a thing where this fight just might last forever because we're going to keep cutting him down. And we're going to eventually run out of stamina, but he's just regenerating, so he won't. But they didn't fight a version of Harold that was fighting off his mind control. So that's interesting. When Harold fought off his mind control, did he also lose access to his regeneration? I don't think anyone can definitively answer that question. I'll leave that up to you guys' interpretation. But regardless, Loki putting Harold down while he was outside of Imu's mind control doesn't just make me automatically throw him ahead of these other characters. So to kind of close things out, when it comes to strength in One Piece, I keep saying this word, but things are really nuanced. There's no argument that Loki is probably the strongest physical specimen on the seas. He's an ancient giant. He's absolutely massive. And he can turn into a dragon that's bigger than some islands and definitely capable of destroying them. But this isn't just a guaranteed win con over everybody in the verse. The introduction of advanced Conqueror's Haki and internal destruction to me communicates that attack potency can be just as, if not more dangerous than just pure all-out destruction. A simple slash that contains Haki that's more potent than Loki's can be much more damaging to him than a big island-destroying attack that doesn't even hit his target. Guys like Mihawk, Shanks, Roger, Garp, I still put them above Loki pretty easily in my opinion. Because while he might outclass them in just being able to just destroy an island, their Haki is enough to make it a non-negotiable. I'm sure Enel can put out some really strong island-destroying blasts, but I'm not putting Enel over certain people just because of that. And you might say that's a poor analogy because Enel is clearly not as strong as Loki, but the idea is that power scaling has different facets to it. It's especially in this story where, while I do think One Piece fans are really off when they act like Oda just doesn't care about power scaling, we do have to acknowledge that his power scaling is really arbitrary because of the impact of your emotions and your willpower on how strong you are. I want us to pump our brakes a little bit, putting Loki above our old generation legends. Now, he will surpass them in due time, but just not quite yet. And honestly, his big dragon form is kind of just making himself a bigger target. Like imagine, bro, I'm talking kind of crazy today. Imagine that big dragon flying over Mihawk. It's gonna be 1,000 pieces of dragons scattered all over whatever island they're fighting on. I'm sorry, I just don't see that being enough yet to just defeat characters of that stature. Now, I will say we have not seen hybrid Loki yet, but it's not going to be anything stronger than his full dragon form. It'll probably be better suited for 1v1 battle because obviously the size factor, but we've already seen the peak of his strength. Like, hybrid Loki won't have stronger lightning blasts than full dragon Loki. He'll have better mobility and movement, but just stronger lightning blasts, I don't think that's the case. If I had to say where I think Loki lands, it's definitely going to be somewhere around that Luffy level. I think he's probably dead even at their very best, but we can assume that he has better stamina and therefore can fight closer to his peak for a longer time than Luffy. But I do also think Luffy's Gear 5 minutes thing is a little bit overstated because he fought against Kaido for a pretty long time in Gear 5. So I don't think he's met a situation that has demanded him to really dig as deep into that bag as he really has had to since Kaido. Like, obviously now Imu is here, but Loki is stalling Imu for him while he's gathering his strength. So when it's time, he's going to fight. He's going to last long enough to put Imu down and do whatever. So the true tale of this comparison will be the way that Luffy performs against Imu, and we can directly compare their feats. Anyway, if you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. We are on the road to blowing up, and I want everybody that is possible to be right here behind me. This video was kind of short notice. I wrote it this morning and wanted to go ahead and get it out while the conversation was the conversation and while Loki was still fighting Imu. But as y'all see, we have a flashback. So I'm gonna see what I can cook up about this flashback. And I'm just gonna try to continue to get better at videos because the last two, didn't perform how we wanted to perform. But I think I can acknowledge and understand why. It's really just a matter of learning and trying with YouTube. You gotta take your L sometimes. But I won't never learn until I try. So yeah, summertime, I'm going for 2 videos a week and maybe 1 stream, but act like you never heard that. If I can do the little Men in Black thing where I just erase your memory, act like you never heard that because I'm not promising anything. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Peace out.